Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shanae Show. So, a little bit of context. This video is going up on both channels, on the Shanae Show and on SD Crochet Studio, and whichever channel you're watching this on, the other channel is tagged down below in the description. Now, this is a monthly Thursdays video, but in this video specifically, we're talking about what happens when a crochet pattern retires. This is a conversation that I've seen in quite a few Facebook groups and also just in general within the crochet community. Thankfully, it's mostly been people asking what to do or giving suggestions as to what to do in the event that a pattern becomes retired, but to kind of give an idea of what exactly that means, what it means to have a retired pattern or to see a pattern retire. That usually means that the creator of the pattern has taken the pattern down from their shop, whether on Etsy or Ravelry or wherever else they're selling their patterns, or they've taken the pattern down from their blog or social media. So essentially, wherever they have their pattern out, whether it's for free or for sale, they have taken it down. Now, the tricky thing about today in the 21st century, 2024, or whenever you're watching this, is that once something is out and has been accessible on the internet in whatever way, shape, or form, social media, for sale on internet selling platforms. There's a better way to say that, but I'm not going to try to think about that right now. Once it is out, available on the internet in whatever way, shape, or form, it is out, and there will be people who have access to it, whether they bought it or they saved it somehow, or I don't want to say rewrote because that's not the right way to say it, but they may have written down the pattern somewhere to keep a hold of it. And that is in the instance of if a pattern is up on a blog, maybe someone rewrote the pattern in a Word document or a note so that they wouldn't have to keep referring to the blog. Personally, I'm not going to say that's wrong, but at the same time, I don't think that's the best decision for the situation, because if you go to that person's blog for the pattern, it gives their blog more traction and it'll get their blog and that specific pattern post out to more people. So do try to interact with the patterns in their original forms. If it's a blog post, do try to interact with the blog post itself. Getting back on topic, my point is that people will always have access to the patterns, even if the original creator has retired it in the sense of they're no longer making it available for free or for selling. Once a pattern is out on the internet, available, accessible on the internet for free or for sale, people will always ultimately have access to one form of the pattern or another. And if someone was interested and they have a friend who bought the pattern, again, this is not something I recommend doing, just because the best course of action, if your friend is interested in that pattern, you should direct them to that person's shop. But at the same time, it isn't the worst thing you could do, and it also makes sense in a situation where the pattern is retired. But again, not the best thing you can do and not the best way to support the original creator of the pattern. Now, there are multiple reasons as to why someone might retire their pattern, and that could be either A, they're trying to rework the pattern, so they took it off briefly to make the pattern better, or 2, maybe they're just no longer selling if the pattern was for sale. Maybe they're just no longer selling crochet patterns or anything related to crochet, or 3, maybe the pattern was available for a limited time only. Those are only a couple reasons of many reasons that they could have for retiring a pattern, whether temporarily or permanently. But at the end of the day, you need to respect the fact that the original creator of the pattern has decided to retire said pattern. One of the major questions that I was seeing surrounding this topic was, if I am making items from the pattern to sell, should I stop making the items to sell? The responses that I saw to this question, specifically in one of the Facebook crochet groups that I'm in, was really 50-50, where some of them were saying you can still, as long as you're giving credit where credit is due and still crediting the original creator, and then the other half were saying no because they decided to retire the pattern, so you shouldn't be creating more of. However, when I've answered this question both in that Facebook group and for a couple of my friends who have asked. I'm kind of in the middle because it really depends on what is said in the pattern itself. Because most crochet pattern creators, including myself, will have a little copyright section within the pattern, usually near the beginning, but sometimes also near the end, or both at the beginning and the end. Most patterns will have a copyright section. And in said copyright section, it will usually say whether or not you can sell items made from the pattern. I think I have one pattern that says do not sell finished products, but that's one. Bluey and Bingo. One thing I will say, so I have a Bluey and Bingo pattern. The only thing, this one doesn't have copyright for the pattern, because when you're doing something that's already copyrighted by a franchise, then it does get a little bit tricky. One thing I would recommend is when you are creating an item like Bluey or Bingo or any of the Bluey characters, or when you are creating any other Disney franchise item or Marvel or whatever, sell in limited amounts. Anything that, as I've said, anything that is already franchised before a crochet pattern was made for it, when it's a character or a certain item from a franchise, it is a little bit harder for the pattern creator to copyright it as their own pattern, because it's already copyrighted. Okay, Santa Claus does not have a copyright. Do any of these ones have a copyright? So this would be a situation where if you know the shop, reach out to the person who created the pattern, where if it's not saying, like this one is, if it's not saying, reach out to the original creator and ask, am I allowed to sell items made from your pattern? And remember to specify items, products made from the pattern. And if you don't get a response, it's kind of like a similar situation. I feel like a lot of the Christmas ones, at least, are a little bit harder to copyright, just because with Christmas and with Halloween too, any Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving, holiday-based crochet patterns are a little bit harder to copyright because a lot of them are image-based patterns. Image as in the images we associate with those holidays. If you are creating items from a pattern and you are selling said items, credit the original creator of the pattern and somehow reference their shop or where you got the pattern in your listing of your items. But to tie in my point, when a pattern becomes retired, all you really have to do is reference the copyright mentioned in the pattern. If you still have access to the pattern, reference the copyright. And if it says you're allowed to sell items made from the pattern, you're still allowed to sell items from the pattern, all the while referencing the original creator of the pattern in the items listing. And if you are unsure, even with a copyright stating one way or the other, if you are unsure, just reach out to the original creator of the pattern. I think there was another note in one of the posts that I saw in the Facebook groups where one person did try to reach out to the original creator of the pattern but didn't get a response. I'm not sure if they have gotten a response between when I saw that post and now, but if you don't get a response from the original creator of the pattern as to what you should do, at the end of the day, like I said in my point, just reference the copyright if a copyright is available. And if there isn't a copyright, then just go with your own gut instincts. If something in your gut is telling you not to sell items made from a retired pattern, then don't sell items made from that retired pattern. Just go with your gut. But what I would suggest, if there's no copyright and if it's a retired pattern, what I would suggest, if there's no copyright saying one way or the other, definitely source out to crochet groups you're in and ask. And also another suggestion is you can always put it in with other sales you make. Like if someone buys another item from you, you can throw that item in. You can still make the item and throw that item in with sales of other items, so you can still distribute the item made from the retired pattern without selling it. So I know that it's a little bit of a harder topic because there's no single right way to go about a topic like this in any situation, not just with crochet. If you all have any other suggestions or opinions, whether you agree or disagree with me, please comment down below. I would love to be able to discuss this more in detail to get different viewpoints on the subject. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.